Hey guys, before we start this Q&A, thank you so much for 170,000 subscribers. So there was a giveaway 2 weeks ago, so if you missed it, make sure you subscribe and have the notifications on and look out for animation videos because those tend to be when I have the giveaways. So I chose 6 commenters at random from the last video, so if this is you, then follow the description for how to claim your prize. Thank you everyone for entering and congrats to the winners. Okay, now on to the Q&A. These questions are gathered from my Facebook page, so if you want to participate in the next Q&A, then make sure you follow me there. Best tips for look ahead that you haven't mentioned in your videos, but you actually just learned. If you are already good at cross plus first pair in inspection, then the most important pair is second pair, because of course the first pause you can have when you solve is between first pair and second pair. The most important pair is first pair, so if you can't plan that in inspection yet, then of course that's more important. But once you can do that, then second pair is really important, because after second pair, third pair and fourth pair are usually really easy to see. Do you think cubing could be a job or a professional sport? So it's kind of a job for me in the sense that I make content around it, but to actually be a speed cuber as your job, I think there would need to be more money in speed cubing. And the only way that's going to happen is if more people watch it. And the only way that's going to happen is if we make it easier and more entertaining to watch. So having more competition streamed, having commentators, and having a format that's nicer to watch, for example, head-to-head. I think that head-to-head brackets where people race each other in real time are really fun to watch, and those should definitely be done more often. I don't know if that's feasible as the official format, but I think having something like that at more competitions where it really matters can really help cubing. How are you able to average sub 1 on 5x5 that fast? Whoa, hold on, I don't actually average sub 1 yet. I'm close to it though, but I haven't been able to practice 5x5 a lot recently. So for 1, I'm good at 3x3, which means I have turn speed, I have look ahead. Pretty much the only things I was missing was recognition for cases and how to do cases. But once I had that for 5x5, then it pretty much is just my 3x3 skill translating. What do you find is the most crucial part of the solve to improve at for one hand? I think closer to the beginning, it's all about can you turn very fast, which means drilling a lot of algorithms. And then slightly later on, when you're doing look ahead, I think that look ahead for one hand is very different because the cube is being held in a different position and you have different blind spots compared to two hands. But if you can turn in a way where you always try to make sure you can see those blind spots, then I think that just turns one hand into an easier version of two hands. What do you do besides cubing? I used to mostly play tennis, but then I haven't been able to make that much time for it, so now just once in a while I will play Smash Bros with my friends. I play Ultimate a little bit, but I mostly play Melee. My main in Melee is Sheik, and in Ultimate I play Lucina, Bowser, Greninja, and Ike. I'm probably best with Lucina though. Any tips for time management between cubing and my profession? So I guess by profession you mean like school or your job. So most people have many hours every day. Even if you go to work or school, you still have a lot of hours besides that. And I think I've always just tried to remove as much of things that I don't find important and replace it with things that I do find is important. Of course, don't be extreme with this and like cut out all of your friends, but you know what I mean. So for example, at most I watch one movie a week and I don't watch TV shows. I also frequently move around the useless apps on my phone like Facebook that I kind of need but shouldn't be on very much. I move them around to random spots so I can't click on it by habit, but instead I have to think about where's the last spot I put it. And when I think about that, it usually makes me not actually go to the app because, usually I don't have to go on. What are the most efficient subsets to learn in 3x3? I'm making a video on this soon, so look out for that. I'm sub 10, but I can't seem to get much faster since all the bad habits from before are now really drilled into my head and muscle memory. Is there any way to fix this? So for example, if you're working on look ahead, instead of focusing on the timer, you want to judge yourselves by how many pauses there were. And so if you just change the metric for how you judge how good a solve is and don't try to focus too much on the timer, in fact, maybe don't even use a timer while you do this, then it won't feel so bad when you're trying to make this change. What do you think about the idea of FMC getting so advanced that we can see a 19 move solution in 15 seconds and then use it for 3x3? Well, I don't think that's happening in the foreseeable future because right now in 15 seconds, I can't even do a near optimal insertion on paper. In fact, I don't think people can do that even for an easy insertion in under 1 minute. And that's just the last step of an FMC solve that you may even have to do multiple times. So until we can do that, I really don't think we can do a whole FMC solve in 15 seconds. What other FMC techniques can I learn? I average 46 moves. Well, I have the FMC playlist, and if you go read the description in some of the later ones, then the knowledge there is pretty much all of the knowledge that I have for FMC, and I average about 30 or 31. And by the way, with this knowledge, I've done about 30 FMC solves in my life, so you can totally do it. Have you noticed any relationship between cubing and musical ability? So I haven't myself because I've never asked people about this, but I'm sure some people have. And just something interesting that is kind of related to this, there actually is a relationship between musical ability and how well people do in school. But as far as I'm aware, it's a correlation and not a causal relationship. which means they happen together, but neither one explains the other one. In the case that I mentioned, people who do music are able to pay for those lessons, which means, for example, maybe they had a better upbringing, they can focus more on school, they can pay for tutors, and so on. And between cubing and music, I'm not sure if there is that third variable, but if I had to predict on what that third variable might be, it might be just that people who can put time into cubing and people who can put time into music just have a lot of free time. Do you think you've answered this question before? No. When you solve the cross, do you memorize the moves you will do during inspection? So I don't memorize the moves like D, R, U, for example, but I do memorize what my fingers are going to do. How to memorize full OLL better? Well, I'm blowing my mind on quadratic function in math, then came this full OLL. Please pick this question. Well, don't learn it too fast. I think for me, it took about 2 months to learn, and 2 months means on average about 1 per day. But I probably learned about 2 to 3 per day, and just some days didn't learn any. I recommend learning by shapes so that every time you see a particular shape, you know if you've learned it or not. For example, the T shape has 2 different OLL cases. Would you say being comfortable with turning using both hands during big cubes rather than just turning with one dominant hand is something to pursue in the turning style of big cubes? So on big cubes, it's totally fine to be good with both of your hands, but it's not fine to constantly switch between them, because a hand switching regrip is probably worse than a cube rotation on big cubes. Do you think you've answered this question before? Yes. What do you think about changing 6x6 and 7x7 from mean of 3 to average of 5? And do I think feet should be removed, and what event would I add to the WCA? I don't even do most of the events right now, so I don't know what I would add. But should feet be removed? No, I like my feet. So when I think about whether an event should be removed, I usually think about should we have it in the first place? And if we didn't have it already, I feel like I would laugh at the idea of adding 3x3 with feet. And for changing events from mean of 3 to average of 5, so I think it would be cool to have it as an average, but for organizing, that would take forever since most people are not that fast at 7x7. So the way to get around that is to pretty much what we have now, which is if you're not fast enough, you don't get to do the full average, but you only get to do one solve. For example, if the cutoff is 5 minutes, that means if you cannot solve it in under 5 minutes, you don't get to do 2 more solves. And if we just said you don't get to do 4 more solves to finish your average of 5, I think that's totally fine. So as long as every round and every competition is treated the same way, then I think that's fine. How do you encourage people to believe they can solve the cube and that it isn't impossible and only for geniuses? Well, show them my 10-minute tutorial. Thoughts on Megaminx and any plans to get into it or make videos on it? I think Megaminx is kind of fun. It's really weird to turn because the faces are not as convex as on a 3x3, so it's kind of weird to hold. And for that reason, I don't like it quite as much as cubic puzzles. But the concept's really awesome because you just get to do F12 over and over. I definitely will get more into it at some point, as long as there are more competitions around me that have it. What should I learn after the beginner's method? I think the order should be 2-look OLL and 2-look PLL because those are a little easier than F2L, and then F2L afterwards. But you can switch up the order if you want. And then after all that, learn full PLL. How do you decide what cross color to use if you're color neutral? I'm having more example solves come out soon, so watch those. Why do you think the cubing community is growing so much, and why do you think more people continue to join? Okay, that's 2 questions, but those are the same question. Well, for one, I think the content around it has gotten better. So obviously there are my tutorials, but I'm also talking about a lot of entertainment videos. For example, old videos from Colorful Pockets, #Cuber, DGCubes, DerpyCuber, and all of them. And a lot of unboxings from everyone, including JR Cuber, and Z3 Cubing makes a lot of entertainment videos now. And also, I think a lot of smaller hobbies are just growing now because the internet is a lot bigger than it used to be, and it's easier than ever to find a whole community of people around what you're looking for. Do you always finish your school homework? Yes. I completely lost interest in cubing and can't figure out what to do. What should I do to get back into cubing? As much as I'd love as many people as possible to be in cubing, to watch my videos, I don't think you need to get back into cubing if you just really don't want to, right? If you like it, it's really useful. Like you can make friends from it, you can set goals and achieve them and just have fun with it. But if you don't like it, just like with anything, it's not that useful. I hope you come back one day, but if you're just feeling guilty about it, I think it's worth taking a break. How do you lube a 6x6 and 7x7? So I'll link in the description my video of how I lube every cube, but just an important note for big cubes is you tend to want them to be faster, and how to get a cube to be faster is when you lube it, lube closer to the insides of the pieces and don't lube the outer pieces too much. What are your thoughts on Roux versus CFOP for one-handed? The Roux method uses a lot of M moves, which you'd imagine is not good for one hand, but you are allowed to touch the cube to the table, so it can make M moves really, really fast. So then if you compare the rest of the solve for Roux versus CFOP, Roux doesn't have any rotations. So besides maybe like one part in first block, the entire solve for Roux is rotationless, and for CFOP there are a few rotations. Also, Roux has a lower move count and a pretty nice move set because you're mostly doing R and U moves. So that's pretty much all I'm going to say on it. In the past 2 years, I've spent maybe 1 hour thinking about one hand, so I really have not formed an opinion on this. I just know the facts, I've presented you with the facts, and you can make up your mind. All right, that's it for this Q&A. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see more videos like this. And thanks for watching. See you guys next time.